Good Thursday morning. You've got the weather desk right here at 13 News Now Plus, and we're happy to tackle today's top weather headlines, a deeper dive into some of the stories impacting so many folks, not only around Hampton Roads in Northeast North Carolina, but across the country and around the world. We've got a couple international stories that are really interesting. We do this each and every Monday through Friday, starting at 9 o'clock. We spend about a half an hour, give or take a little bit, depending on what's going on. Today's headlines include an unfortunate update from storms impacting the central U.S. They have turned deadly. A couple of people drowned in flooding back in Oklahoma. We're going to talk about that. Some other parts of the country hit very hard with severe storms. We're also going to give you the brand new drought monitor. It just came out 30 minutes ago. I'll talk about which parts of the country have had some relief, which places are in better shape, and which places are in more desperate need of rain. There are some places where the drought's gotten worse, other areas that have gotten a little bit of relief. We also have UV index updates. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what you need to do as we get into the spring and summer season. Some issues with ticks. We've got really an interesting array of stories here. Also some changes to the National Hurricane Center outlooks, and we'll talk about the season ahead, kind of update you on where we are right now, where we're going to start looking for development potentially in the tropics, and then what's coming up down the road. All right, we're going to start off, though, by addressing the showers and storms that are out there this morning. We had just about half an hour or so ago, there was a severe storm that was just east of Lake Charles. We were looking at that down across Louisiana. Right now, it looks like no active warnings, at least for the time being, but we'll check in on that as we still have some intense storms down there. This activity produced some flooding across parts of Oklahoma down through the Red River Valley, and you can see into Texas, very heavy rain there. Rain right now across the upper Midwest and parts of the Great Lakes region. The severe threat is going to be shifting a little farther to the east, and we'll get into all of this. But I wanted to start off with some storm reports. And when we take a look, you see various reports. Sometimes it's damaging winds. You might get flooding or get reports of large hail, severe hail. All of these are sent into the National Weather Service offices across the country, and then they automatically plot on these maps, and we can talk about them. One that may jump off the screen here, this little red square, that's a tornado, and I just thought I'd give you that information. Effingham in Illinois, you can see that particular cell right there. There are a couple funnel clouds spotted, but that was actually a tornado with a brief touchdown in Effingham. That's in Effingham County. And again, that took place around 8:14 Central Time last night. So that's where we had a tornado. Again, a few other funnel clouds. But you know what? It was flooding, and that flood just occurring south of Oklahoma City in a town of Lexington, not too far from Purcell. So want to talk to you a little bit more about that. We now know that at least 2 people have died in those slow-moving thunderstorms that dumped so much heavy rain in the Midwest and the South. These pictures are from Lexington, Oklahoma. Floodwaters washed out roads and highways. Oklahoma City set a record yesterday with 11.91 inches of rain for April. That passes a record which dates all the way back to 1947, according to the Oklahoma State climatologist. Police in the Sooner State say that the floods became deadly when 2 people were unable to escape their vehicles caught in the rush of water. A sheriff's deputy rushed in to try to save one of those people, but was unable to make it in time, and that deputy needed medical treatment, but should be okay. Now, down in Texas, departures were grounded at Dallas Love Field and Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport for part of the day. Hundreds of flights canceled as storms pushed through. In Dallas itself, the storm drains clogged near major roads, causing dangerous traffic conditions. And more than 100,000 people in Ohio and western Pennsylvania are still without power this morning. That's after powerful storms swept through the region Tuesday night into Wednesday. We know at least 3 people died in Pennsylvania. So these storms, very, very serious. 2 were electrocuted by live power wires, and a 3rd person was killed by a falling tree. According to the National Weather Service, Pittsburgh International Airport recorded its 3rd highest wind gust in modern history at 71 miles per hour. A survey team investigated wind damage just east of Pittsburgh, but could not find conclusive evidence that a tornado had touched down. Still a lot of damage in those areas. All right, we're going to take a little closer look at the storm and the storm outlook now coming forward. You see all those storm reports down in Louisiana. Okay, we just got a new little warning that just popped up there. Again, this was with that cell that was just east of Lake Charles. It looked like they had taken it down, but they've got another one up. So we do have this one little area here as it's continuing to move along, still producing some very powerful winds, maybe a little bit of hail associated with that. Right now, that is a thunderstorm warning in southern Louisiana, and this line is approaching Baton Rouge. Mainly rain showers approaching Baton Rouge, but these areas south of Baton Rouge need to be mindful of that particular cell. You can see a few more showers passing to the northeast of New Orleans. So little something there to watch. This line here, kind of some outflow from some of these heavier storms, and they kind of did their own thing as they're moving along, but they are weakening at this point. Let's look farther to the north. Rain is widespread. This is not severe, but we do have widespread moderate rain with some heavier pockets extending from Lake Michigan and even the lower peninsula of Michigan back across southern parts of Wisconsin. So pretty good area of rain there. As you go farther north across the lower peninsula of Michigan, you see the rain also extending back across Huron and almost reaching Toronto. Not quite there yet, but this is a large area of rain moving along. Now, I want to talk about the area just a little bit to the south and east of that. You can see a few showers and maybe a rumble or two of thunder there working through eastern Ohio. We're going to look for this area to light up more later this afternoon with activity on the radar, as showers and storms are going to be possible. A level 2 threat for severe storms from the Ohio River Valley, and that includes areas out towards Pittsburgh all the way up into western parts of New York State. But it comes down through the Ohio River Valley, parts of West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee. Then you get into Alabama and Mississippi, back across parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, and along the Red River. So this area hit hard yesterday and the day before, and they're still dealing with it. We'll get into flood outlooks coming up in just a bit. Let's focus a little bit more on this severe weather outlook. Again, it's a slight risk level 2, but it would not surprise me at all to see more severe warnings going up later on. Now, you can see the strong wind potential with potentially these areas hashtagged out with 75 mile per hour or greater winds in this area. So in general, we're talking about winds that would be in excess of 60 miles per hour. But this is a significant risk back here on the western part of this outlooked area. And you can see this area all the way back down. That is going to be the primary concern, strong winds. Also, some large hail. And again, this hashed area showing the greatest risk of significant hail. We're talking hail maybe 2 inches in diameter, say golf ball size. Pretty big stuff. At 1 inch diameter, that's considered the threshold for severe weather. So when we get quarter size hail, you know that's hail that's big enough to do some damage, can damage windows, dent cars and different surfaces, can start to damage roofs if it gets much bigger than that. And there is that potential across southern Oklahoma. So folks here need to stay very weather aware. Want to check out this part of the severe weather outlook I mentioned across the Ohio River Valley. Now here you still have that strong wind potential. We don't see any of that area hashtagged out like we did farther to the west, but still pretty good chances for some strong winds associated with those storms and the large hail. Again, 1 inch diameter or greater potentially in some of these areas. We'll need to keep a close eye to that. But there's one other concern that wasn't really in place back across Oklahoma and Texas, that other area I showed you, that we do need to watch for here, and that is a tornadic threat. You can see there is the potential for tornadic development from Kentucky back across Ohio. And again, there's a little risk of that back out to the west as well, but we're also watching in the Ohio River Valley. So that's what's happening here. We're going to take a look kind of going forward, what you can expect. Again, isolated tornadoes possible back this way, but little bit better chance here across the Ohio River Valley. And then as we go forward tomorrow, that risk area is still pretty much there. It's not quite as great. We have a level 2 threat today. Tomorrow it's going to be a level 1 or a marginal risk, still level 2 back across parts of central Texas. And then as we get into Saturday, you'll notice this whole area shifts east. And this is significant for our home market here. Southeast Virginia, Northeast North Carolina. That's where our 13 News Now Plus studios are. We're right here in Norfolk, Virginia. So this entire 13 News Now broadcast area where we go over the airwaves, satellite and cable systems, everybody here is under a level 1 threat. That's for late Saturday. So we'll need to keep an eye to things. Again, there's a chance with temperatures back up in the low 80s and that front getting closer to us that we could see a couple stronger storms Saturday night. We'll see. Most of the models have been holding it out a little farther to the west. I do think there'll be some better chances back across the Piedmonts of Virginia and North Carolina. But up and down the eastern seaboard, you do have that risk on Saturday, so we'll be keeping a close eye to that. All right, I want to update you on the drought situation. And this is a change. This came out at 8:30. It comes out every morning, 8:30 Eastern time. So it came out this morning, and I was taking a look at this compared to last week, and there were some subtle changes. Now, honestly, most of the southwest U.S., this is the first place we'll look, really hasn't changed much at all. We're still looking at exceptional and extreme drought across parts of South and West Texas. You see that all the way out through El Paso, southern parts of New Mexico, back into Arizona, up through Vegas. This really hasn't changed very much. I will say in northern New Mexico, where we just had moderate drought, it's gone extreme now a little farther to the east. So there are some little subtle changes, but the areas that you see that really need the rain right now in the southwest, that hasn't changed much since last week. It's basically the same general map as you take a look at it. Things have changed in other parts of the country. One area that has had some relief with some periods of rain and some thunderstorms, parts of Minnesota that were widespread under moderate drought are now just showing abnormal dry. There is still some moderate drought up there, but things have improved a little bit across the Dakotas, across parts of Minnesota, even Wisconsin and Iowa have gotten some beneficial rain. So those areas, a little bit of improvement. We still have extreme drought for parts of Wyoming. You can see southeast Wyoming, western parts of Nebraska, southwest South Dakota, and North Dakota, a little bit there off to the northwest of Bismarck. So that's what's happening there. A little bit of improvement. One other area that has seen things take a turn for the worse, we're getting more of South Florida now under extreme drought. This was just a little tiny dot last week. Now it's expanded and is covering more. We're also seeing more of Central Florida going to moderate to extreme drought. So Florida could actually use a little bit of rain. They get those coastal showers and storms, developing during the afternoon, but the central portions of the Sunshine State could use a little bit more. Now, up across our region, we really haven't seen too much change. Still moderate drought down to the south. This is very similar. But I'm staying wider here with this drought monitor update to show you the western parts of Virginia because they were just identified as yellow or abnormally dry. Now we have moderate drought along the spine of the Blue Ridge. So out along the Appalachian Trail, if you're going to be thinking about maybe hiking that as we get into the weekend, just know it is dry up there right now. There is some rain in the forecast over the weekend. Maybe that'll help a little bit. But think about that. We are getting into a moderate drought for that part of the Commonwealth and down into North Carolina, still dry out to the west. So that's a look at what's going on, again, across our immediate Hampton Roads area. Very little change. Still dry across the extreme south side, and we've got moderate to severe drought down around the Albemarle Sound. So that's what's happening there. Now we're going to take a look at the flood potential. And going forward, those areas, we just talked about the fatalities south of Oklahoma City. We're going to have the potential for more flooding. It's a level 2 or slight risk, but this is the area, southern Oklahoma. It's already been a problem. There is that threat, level 1, but you see the area shaded in green. That extends off to the north and to the northeast. As we go, this is Friday morning to Saturday morning, still level 1 threat here, and then looking ahead Saturday morning to Sunday morning, chances for rain out to the west. And as I just mentioned, back over the mountains, they could use some rain. So some rain would certainly help that a little bit. We're still dry here expected as far as Rain chances, they'll be kind of off and on, hit and miss. I do think we will get some showers and storms, but it doesn't look like we're going to see widespread flooding, although we could have a few runoff issues if we do get some heavier cells that move over the same areas. So I don't want you to drop your guard, stay weather aware, but these are where the Weather Prediction Center has those kind of excessive rainfall outlooks. All right, we're going to take a look at the Futurecast and show you one of our models. This is a graph model. You see the line of storms developing later today, still out to the west. For our area here in the mid-Atlantic, generally partly sunny skies. There might be a stray shower or storm, but in general, we're looking pretty good. Some more unsettled weather up around the Great Lakes, and then more of that heavy rain across parts of Oklahoma into Arkansas and the deep south. So it's still on. As we go late Friday night and into Saturday, we could get some more chances. I'll have more of a local look coming up. All right, we're going to turn our attention from the United States and the southeast U.S. all the way over to Israel. And you might wonder, okay, what's happening there weather-wise in Israel? In Israel, crews are battling a wildfire for the second day now. Flames shut down a major highway linking Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. That roadway reopened this morning. We're told it started as a fire in a pine forest, but strong winds and hot, dry conditions helped it spread quickly. Several communities were evacuated as a precaution. More than 5,000 acres have burned so far, making this the most significant fire Israel has seen in the past decade. And several countries sent firefighting aircraft to help Israel knock back the flames. At least 12 people were treated in hospitals yesterday, mainly due to smoke inhalation. Okay, we're going to take a look from Israel. Let's stay international, and this time we're going to head way down to the east of Australia to New Zealand and what's happening there. In the Pacific, New Zealand is under a state of emergency for parts of the South Island. Heavy downpours fell on the nation, and the capital of Wellington faced its first ever red wind warning. That's the most severe level. The Meteorological Service of New Zealand had gusts reaching up to 93 miles per hour and urged people to stay indoors. Average sustained winds, these are sustained winds, up to about 54 miles per hour. That's strong tropical storm force, just to give you a reference there, making this the strongest windstorm in New Zealand since 2013. All right, schools and roads were shut down because of the storm, and flights were grounded across the country. As for rainfall, orange level warnings were issued across parts of the country for large sea swells and flooding. Orange is the second most serious alert, and the storms are slowly calming down. They'll continue to do so over the next few hours. You can see again that storminess wrapping back over towards the South Island. So that's what's happening over in New Zealand. All right, we're going to come back in and talk about the Atlantic and the upcoming hurricane season. We've been doing this a lot, and we will do it more as we get closer to the season. That was a 2024 season. We were pretty active, but ahead of this season, the National Hurricane Center is changing the way it alerts us to possible tropical systems. Meteorologist Taylor Stephenson explains how the new alerts will work.
Hurricane season is just about a month away, and this season, the National Hurricane Center will be rolling out new ways to inform people about tropical impacts. As a note, the graphics you're about to see are not current storms. The first change to the tropical alerts allows the Hurricane Center to display more alerts downstream of an incoming tropical system. The new experimental cone of uncertainty will show inland tropical storm and hurricane watches and warnings. This will give residents in those areas more lead time to prepare for tropical impacts. Additionally, due to the rise of rip current deaths, the Hurricane Center will provide national rip current risk maps when there's an active system in the Atlantic Basin. Rip current risks will be issued for days 1 and 2. Day 1 being the present day, and day 2 being the day after or tomorrow. There are a few more changes that the Hurricane Center will implement this year. Check out the full list on 13newsnow.com. For 13 News Now, I'm meteorologist Taylor Stephenson.
You know, something else we really look at closely with any of these storms, and they don't even have to be landfalling or coming too close. They just generate more wave action, and we really are monitoring the rip current threats. Now, there's nothing going on in the tropics right now, but I did want to let you know, even today, what seems like a fairly pleasant day across Hampton Roads, we've got a moderate threat of rip currents from Virginia Beach down through Oregon Inlet, and then you can see the southern part of the Outer Banks down around Hatteras back over to Ocracoke Island. So again, this is something we'll be mindful of and continue to pass along information with that. Of course, rip currents develop. You get those currents that pull out away from the beach. And what happens is people panic. They get into these rip currents. They try to fight against them. They wear out, and that's where they can get into trouble and sometimes, unfortunately, drown. The thing you have to do is don't panic if you get caught in one of these strong, narrow currents flowing out away from the beach. You just have to relax. Okay, and you swim parallel to the coast. These currents can reach 1 to 2 feet per second. You think about that as you're being pulled away, it's going to be a little frightening for you. The main thing is folks need to relax. Some currents have been as fast as 8 feet per second. What you do, you don't fight it. You don't try to swim in against it. That's how you get worn out. Instead, swim parallel to the coast, and eventually you're going to get out of that narrow rip current that's pulling you out. You'll be able to swim back in quite easily. So we want folks to stay mindful of that, and please be very, very careful. Now, we are going to take a look at the tropics, and again, Taylor was just talking about some of the changes coming up with the upcoming season, the way the Hurricane Center is messaging all of this. I'm happy to tell you things are quiet right now off the southeast coast, back across the Gulf, and through the Caribbean. It's May. You're thinking, okay, you know, hurricane season starts June 1. That's true traditionally, but we can and sometimes do get storms in May. And when you think about it, you get into June, these are the hot spots. These are the typical breeding grounds. We've got 3 areas we really look for. Gulf of Mexico, that's one of them. Another area is here in the Caribbean, especially the western part of the Caribbean, and then off the southeast coast as well. We can sometimes get some storms here around the Bahamas or over a little closer to the Florida coast. So these are all areas that we watch, and I mentioned all 3 of those quiet right now, so we're not too worried about that. I do want to let you know our sea surface temperatures, though, for these areas are very, very warm. So we have above normal sea surface temperatures all across this area. We're talking about sea surface temperatures already in excess of 80 degrees. It is a warm sea surface that feeds the hurricane development, the tropical development. We always keep an eye to that. Rest of the basin, crystal clear right now across the main development region. Typically, we average 14 named Storm 7 hurricanes and 3 major hurricanes. Here is the latest outlook from Colorado State University. 17 named storms, 9 hurricanes, and 4 majors. That would be a little bit, just a tick above average, but a little bit below what we saw last year. All right, speaking of ticks, now that the weather is getting warmer, you're going to be seeing the UV index a lot more during the weather forecast from 13 News Now. But what exactly should you take away from the index? Meteorologist Tim Pandages shows us how it can help make safe decisions about spending time in the sun.
It's that time of the year when we incorporate the UV index into our forecast to keep you safe from the harmful rays of the summer sun. But what exactly is the UV index, and how can you use it to make safe decisions about spending time in the sun? Well, the UV index represents the amount of sun's ultraviolet radiation reaching Earth's surface at any instant in time, and on a scale from 1 being low to 11 or greater being extreme. Now, the overall intensity of the sun's radiation varies according to many different factors. First up is cloud cover. When it's thick, it can block most UV radiation, but up to 80% of it can penetrate light cloud cover. So the myth you cannot get a sunburn on a cloudy day is false. In fact, those puffy cumulus clouds that we see on hot summer days, well, they can deflect the sun's rays and increase the UV radiation. Now, the time of day certainly plays a big role. Midday is when the UV radiation peaks, when the sun is highest in the sky. It typically lessens in the early morning and late in the afternoon. Now, ozone exists in our atmosphere and acts to absorb UV rays. The higher the level of ozone, the lesser the number of rays that will be able to reach the surface where you and I live. And no surprise here, land cover, such as buildings and tree canopies, greatly reduces exposure to UV rays. Now, for every 1,000-foot increase in elevation, the amount of UV radiation increases by 2% due to the air being thinner. UV radiation is strongest at the equator and lessens as you head towards the poles. And finally, the seasons. UV radiation peaks in spring and summer in the northern hemisphere and declines through the fall with lowest levels in the winter. So when you hear the UV forecast during our weather segment, remember that the number correlates to how strong the sun's rays will be that day and that it will be more likely to get sunburn if you are overexposed. Too much sun can lead to sunburn and skin cancer, sun sensitivity, eye damage, and premature wrinkling. Use sunscreen and apply thoroughly and often. Limit exposure when UV is at its highest near midday. Seek shade, wear sunglasses, and wear loose-fitting light-colored clothing. For 13 News Now, I'm Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandages.
All right, Tim, thank you for that. And today you just saw the different varying levels and how much time before a sunburn. Let's take a look. We're at 8.8 today. That is right in the middle of that very high level. So about 20 minutes or so, all it's going to take before you start to sunburn. Got to protect your skin and take steps. Even with sunscreen, you need to remember to reapply it. Hat, sunglasses, always a good idea. Let's update you on the pollen. Trees still moderate. Grass pollen is low. We've had a couple days with no grass pollen, nothing significant reported around Norfolk. So to see it back up a little bit, it's low, but tree pollen is down a little bit. All right, let's talk about our weekend getaways coming up. Chances for showers and storms up in D.C. around Charlottesville. I think most of Richmond looks pretty good for Saturday, as will the Outer Banks. But late Saturday evening, we could see a few storms here in Richmond. Probably still dry down around the Outer Banks, although there is a chance we could see something overnight. I expect showers, though, and some wet weather across the region on Sunday. And that's one way our forecast has changed up. Now, Saturday is going to be really interesting. Okay, we're going to see a chance for showers and storms Friday evening, Friday night. As we get into Saturday morning, I think we'll see some lingering showers. But these next two words, this is the key for Saturday, then dry. I expect mostly dry conditions based on the latest modeling that's coming in. This is a change. Yesterday and earlier in the week, it was looking like we were going to see more potential storm development on Saturday. Remember, we're still outlooked a level 1 threat of severe storms, so do not drop your guard. But if you're heading out to the Wine Festival, the Springtown Point, Virginia Wine Fest, you should be in pretty good shape on Saturday. Keep an eye to the radar. Keep checking back with 13 News. I think we'll have some nice long dry stretches on Saturday with a chance for a few more showers or storms late. And that may be after the Wine Fest kind of closes down into Saturday evening. As we look ahead to Sunday, this is where it's kind of a bummer. Earlier in the week, Sunday looked like it was going to be really nice. But what's happened is some of this wet weather on Saturday is holding up to the west a little bit and then arriving Sunday, and it looks like it's going to be slower to clear. So showers are more likely Sunday and into Monday. We will, of course, keep a close eye to all of that and keep you updated as we get into the weekend. Certainly check back for updates from 13 News Now later today. You'll find updates right here on 13 News Now Plus, and if you can join me tomorrow on Daybreak, I'll have a full update for you as we get ready for the weekend. Few showers down to the south, no major problems out there. Chance of rain, there's a chance we could see an isolated shower. It's pretty low, though, later this afternoon, mainly off to the north. As we go later Friday, again, chances for a few showers or storms. It's mainly going to be out to the west, and then I think we could see a little bit of that pushing in Friday evening. You see it there. Low risk today. Isolated to scattered late Friday, early Saturday, some rain showers, most of Saturday dry with a chance for a shower storm later Saturday evening. Sunday, better chances for scattered showers, and that threat will continue into Monday. It's lower again for Tuesday and Wednesday. Here's the Futurecast rainfall, and it's interesting to take a look here with the graph model. You could see some significant rainfall into late Friday night or early Saturday, maybe 1/3 of an inch to a little bit less than 1/2 inch. inch, but most of the area is dry when you look at the graph going forward with the Futurecast. That's one of our high-res models. The graph really doesn't produce much for Hampton Roads over the next, say, 24 to 36 hours or so. Now, as we take a look at the rainfall from several different models, the GFS, that's the global forecast system, the U.S. global model, and the Euro both producing a little bit more. The NAM, another high-res model, as I mentioned in the graph, very little rainfall through the next 48 hours. The Canadian, the GEM model, about 1/10 of an inch. So we'll see how it plays out. There will be chances across the region. What I can tell you for sure, temperatures are warming up. We've got mid-70s already, low to mid-70s right now. Highs today, upper 80s to near 90. Some of the downtown area with the buildings could create a little urban heat island effect there. It is going to be warm and humid across much of the region. Upper 80s on the peninsula, the middle peninsula pretty warm, cooler at Matthews, eastern shore also a bit cooler. Down at the Outer Banks, temperatures low 80s there, low to mid 80s, and it will be warmer mid to upper 80s across northeast North Carolina. As you see overnight, mild. Lows near 66, a bit breezy. Winds southwest 10 to 15 miles per hour. Tomorrow, 88, partly cloudy afternoon showers or storms will be possible. And the 7-day forecast, again, showing you that possibility of late day storms. I think storms possible on Saturday evening, really. Some showers in the morning and then a dry period with chances for showers again Sunday into Monday. Tuesday and Wednesday, we look pretty good with partly cloudy skies. Temperatures are going to be trending back up, mid-70s on Tuesday, upper 70s on Wednesday. All right. Want you to know the best thing you can do is to stay connected to our forecast. Download the 13 News Now app by scanning that QR code, and we'll have you loaded up with great forecast information, access to our radars, and, of course, news updates as well. It's all right there at your fingertips 24/7 while you're on the go. Take us with you with the 13 News Now app. I want to thank you for spending the last half an hour with us here on the Weather Desk. Again, we do it every Monday through Friday. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller wishing you a fantastic Thursday. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.